Welcome back to the second video on group discussion. In this video, you will observe a group discussion on Formdale India case. Keenly observe all participants and note what is great leadership behavior and where there are gaps.
Okay, yeah, I think let me just actually, good morning everyone. Let me just quickly set up the agenda or the stage that what we are trying to do here. We have a partner in India, JPP, and we have our India Center, FI India, and I think we are seeing some good profits in terms of the numbers. We are seeing there is a promise in this arrangement, not only because they are able to provide us low cost resources, but at the same time we are also able to tap into some markets close to those regions. So we definitely have a promise here, but there are some challenges, and I think in terms of the challenges, we can go into specifics. But I think at a broad level, what I believe the challenges are that of the culture and the expectations, because most of our customer base is in Europe, and second thing is of retaining the key employees and with them retaining the training. And so I think we have to discuss here, and we would like to basically hear thoughts from everyone on what kind of specific areas that we can or ideas that we can put on the table, because as you know that our negotiations with JPB have not been successful, so we have to be thinking creatively. We can't just say take it or leave it, because we can't leave the money on the table. We have to actually come up with ideas and try to make it work. So
right. I also see that there are broadly two or three sets of problems, and as well as design costs should be reduced. Frankly, from my point of view, is like two different. One is a strategic problem at hand,
correct,
and what we need to aid there, and one is an execution level problem. When you see the case studies around the attrition, induction time, ramp up time, the time that they attrite, looks to me like a pretty a common execution related problem, right? So two different things, strategic and this. While the proportion of the business that comes on with whatever investments we have done so far is that we are able to capitalize on only the 15% of the market, which is basically for India and Singapore. Yeah. So when we are looking at a long-term presence here, we want to grow business, which means it's not going to stop at 15. We might look at a to-be scenario where what is a kind of an ideal workforce, how should they be handled to cater to that need. And of course, I'm not negating the current problem in hand, because the contract is expiring in the next 2 months. So we cannot do any large-scale implementation of quick turnarounds, but we need to see a larger picture. Is what is my thought process. Of course, I have some data points that I want to go through once we kind of get to the list of problems that we want to solve, and then move forward from there. Over to you, Sangeeta.
Sure. I've also been thinking of certain other ideas which we've been completely, 3 years have passed since we signed this contract, and 3 years of also trying to get a feel of what the market is and could be or whatever. So one of the things that came across is it time to have a formal FI India vis-a-vis continuing with G? Is one of the things.
So Sangeeta ji, I think won't that be like we are jumping to the solution? I think we should establish what are we trying to achieve. Because if then we can go to the ideas. I mean, if you really jump to a solution,
so solution is the end thing. But when we're thinking of this, I'm parallelly also kind of making notes of if we continue with JPP, what are the list, what are the issues, and probably what are the revisions in certain terms and conditions and legalities that we could get into, legal nuances while framing the contract itself, so that we ensure that certain standards. And then parallelly thinking of if we get into having an FI India, because today a lot of questions ahead, right from when we have a contracting this, for example, whom does the onus of business development lie on? So if you're talking of ownership of business. So it's like if you're wanting to expand the base here, so there are a lot of these areas that need to be thought of, and when we have a plan to go forward. So in order to for all these things to merge and to come across, even these fine points need to be discussed so that then we can pinpoint.
Right, I think, in my opinion, probably that is taking. We are really trying to, operate a patient with the first sign of sneezes.
Right.
I think we have to probably look at what is the issue here, and is it really not, because we have a good success rate. We are going from a loss of 15 million rupees to a profit of 25 million rupees. So there is certain promise over there. Now I think maybe before I let you basically bring your point, just one point is maybe if as a group we try to come up with some ideas that without making too many quick turns or too big changes, can we tweak certain things in the way we are having a contract? I mean, let's say if we are having JPP providers resources, maybe can we have a hybrid model where instead of just the 3 people in India, we have a larger team, or we can hire some local team as our internal who will basically pass on the culture and the knowledge so that we are not having an impact on the contract. So maybe if we can tweak certain things in the contract, would that be a better idea rather than really going all the way into establishing an entity?
What I would really like to see is strategically what is it that we want to achieve and what is our problem statement. So what I see is that with the 3 years of operation, definitely the primary organization has a dependency created on us.
Right.
So what is it that we are putting at risk by trying to control the costs?
Correct.
Secondly, I see the relationship, the way the projects are going. One part I see is a disjoint between the relationship of our associates with the primary organization's associates.
Right.
There might be a reason that these being contracted resources is that feeling making that conflict happen.
Right.
And there are chances that if these teams feels that they are part of our team, will that relationship smoothen out?
Right.
Plus the JPB being our partner, we really do not have much control on what are their manpower management strategies.
Right.
We have been trying to influence them, but there is a limit up to which we can go. Now that looks like the key problem areas that I see. Now, if I really want to make a solution part of it, one thing we have to see is that business continuity should not get impacted.
Correct. Exactly. I agree with that.
Secondly, can we keep the core as it is and still develop an alternative around it, or we shake up the core right away? Because if we start building an alternative, that might soften the JPP to start agreeing to us.
Correct.
If we shake the core, the problem is that there will be multiple fallouts that we'll have to manage.
Right.
So I believe the problem statement on one side, possible areas, and every possible solution we have today will have a risk as well as the risk management around it.
Right.
So we'll have to figure out what of those risks are balanced one for us.
So I think I totally agree with you. I think main thing is that we have to think strategically. We cannot really address small problems with a big bang solution. I think if you think strategically, what are the areas that we want to address? Definitely the culture. I think there is a culture. We don't have control over the culture of the larger team. It's JPP mostly coming. They're getting paid less. The company is making more profit. Right. There is lack of transparency. Can we address that? That is strategic, basically, at a strategic level. Right now, there is also a training issue, right? That people are probably not getting the trained, and then people leave, and then along with them, the training investment is gone, right? How can we address that, right? So maybe that is kind of if we take that as a larger theme, and then we address tactically each and every of this problem, maybe I think we'll have a better ideas and a proposal for the management. So there are a couple of ideas which I would like to just put forward in front of you, and then maybe we can think about it. One is that JPB has worked out well for us, that AI has worked out well for us. So how can we try to address those issues while them being our partner? Mm-hmm. Number one is, how can we increase more accountability of JPB on the attrition? How can we put more accountability? Because right now they are having a huge margin. And they're paying less to their employees, that is causing attrition. There is 50-60% people can get outside. Can we ask them to work out a model where we can do a cost plus? For example, they can show us what is the salary that they're paying and how much is the overhead and markup they're making. And we can make them our partner in terms of that they are not getting a loss. We are trying to basically increase the team strength. So their total revenue, which is coming out of the company JPP, is not impacted by employees getting paid more. Can we find a solution like that? That will be more agreeable to them.
Yeah, I have one turnaround point on that. Is that in my past experience dealing with other companies, of course, with FI, is that when anything of any operations is of sort of strategic nature, which has an IPR attached to it, I would prefer not solving the small problems. I'm not distracting that as a small problem. I see it as it's a strategic thing rather than following relationship and ownership through SLA, where you usually outsource a process which is non-strategic. Here I see the design being going to be an integral part of our strategy and IPR attached to it. I feel rather than solving relationship issues, SLAs issues, partner issues, somewhere we need to think is the vendor model or the partner model itself is applicable for us. Probably I would prefer, it's too early for me to decide, but still the early indicators is that move from an outsourced model of a process to an own model like a captive unit.
How do we manage
How do we manage? Yes. So the one that I did a preliminary calculation is that this is the time for hedging up because all the things shows a profit in the past 3 years. Yes, there is a courtesy that we need to exhibit to our partners, but if you see, without having to negotiate with a vendor or anything, even if we jump the salaries of the A and the B segments, because C is hardly 3 people in India, A and the C segments, still, even if we own them, we give them a raise, thinking like 60% is going to fight attrition, which might not be true. It might fight probably 50% of the attrition. We are still at a profit of 0.98 and 0.8, which means we have nothing to lose here at this point in time in terms of money, right? So that's a.
You mean raising these salaries while they are still with JPP?
Yes. Okay. Or if we alternate to a model where we are owning up the
billing with JPP will increase. Right?
Yeah. So this is a temporary phase, right?
Yep.
So the to be phase when an outsourced model is moved to a captive model. How is the to be situation that we see is that all our employees are paid well, and definitely they are trained well. Okay. And there is a C segment of the category of experience that we have.
Right.
While we are having a local business, every time going to a centralized and then coming back is not always the right way in my thing. Why? Because there is some local ownership that is need to be there because it has to be empowered and they have to drive decisions and doing things. Yep. Of course, from Paris we'll get instructions and things like that support. But their local presence in terms of the captive model seems to be suggesting the way. That too with the numbers that is in hand, it's time for hedge up and we need to be bold with our decision that we recommend.
We will stop now. Please watch our video group discussion part 3 for rest of the demonstration and conclusions. Happy learning.